In the village of Ebony, Nora was known for her beauty and grace. Her parents, however, were more interested in wealth than love. They had always dreamt of marrying their daughter to a rich man. Nora's father, Orenze, and her mother, Bini, believed that securing a wealthy husband for their daughter would elevate their family status and ensure a comfortable future. They often spoke of their dreams, imagining a life of luxury and ease. As Nora grew older, many suitors came to ask for her hand in marriage. Most of them were young men from the village, hardworking but poor. Orenze and Bini dismissed them without a second thought. "We can't let our daughter marry a pauper," Orenze would say, shaking his head. "She deserves better." One such suitor was the Bem, a kind and honest farmer. He had admired Nora from afar for years and finally gathered the courage to speak to her parents. He brought gifts and made a heartfelt plea, but Orenze and Bini were not impressed. "What can you offer our daughter?" Bini asked, her eyes narrowing. "You can't even afford proper shoes." The Bem left with a heavy heart, knowing that his love for Nora was not enough to win her parents' approval. Nora felt sorry for him, but she knew that her parents would never change their minds. She felt trapped, caught between her own desires and her parents' ambitions. Another suitor, Guzo, was a talented musician who brought joy to the village with his songs. He too hoped to marry Nora, believing that his music and love would be enough to make her happy. But when he approached Orenze and Bini, they scoffed at his dreams. "Music won't put food on the table," Orenze said dismissively. "Come back when you have something of real value." Nora's heart ached as she watched Guzo walk away, his head bowed in disappointment. She admired his passion and creativity, but knew that her parents would never see past his lack of wealth. It seemed that no matter how kind or talented her suitors were, they would always be judged by their bank accounts. Then there was Zuru, a teacher who was respected by everyone in the village. He had a steady job and a good reputation, but his modest income was not enough to satisfy Orenze and Bini. When he came to ask for Nora's hand, her parents barely listened to him. "A teacher's salary is not enough for our daughter," Bini said coldly. "We want more for her." Nora felt a deep sadness as she saw one suitor after another turned away. She dreamed of marrying for love, but her parents' obsession with wealth made that seem impossible. She began to lose hope, wondering if she would ever find happiness. As the suitors stopped coming, Orenze and Bini grew more determined to find a wealthy match for their daughter. They attended social events and gatherings, always on the lookout for a rich husband for Nora. And then, one day, they met Afam, a wealthy businessman from a neighboring town. He expressed interest in Nora, and her parents' eyes lit up with excitement. Finally, they thought their dreams were about to come true. So, Afam paid a high bride price, making Nora's parents very happy. Nora, on the other hand, was not pleased. She had never met Afam before and had no feelings for him. She felt like a commodity being sold for a price. Her friends tried to console her, saying she would get used to Afam, but Nora couldn't shake off the feeling of resentment. "Why should I marry someone I don't love?" she asked her best friend, Dabi. "It's the way things are done here," Dabi replied. "You must try to find some happiness in it." The village knew Afam to be a good man, but Nora couldn't see past the arrangement. On their wedding day, she put on a brave face, but inside, she felt trapped. The villagers celebrated, but Nora's heart was heavy. That night, Nora made a decision. She would not sleep with Afam, no matter what. She had to find a way to keep her dignity intact, even if it meant defying her parents and husband. The wedding celebrations lasted well into the night. Afam and Nora were escorted to their new home by a group of singing villagers. Afam was excited about starting his new life with his beautiful bride. Nora, however, was filled with great fear. As they entered their bedroom, Afam tried to make her feel comfortable. "Nora, I know this is all very new for you. But I want you to know that I will always treat you with respect." Nora nodded but remained silent. She had made up her mind and was determined to stick to her decision. Afam tried to hold her hand, but she gently pulled away. "I'm tired," she said. "Can we just sleep?" Shocked, Afam was surprised but agreed. "Of course, my dear. We can take things slow." That night, Nora lay awake, thinking about her future. She knew her decision would create tension, but she couldn't bring herself to sleep with a man she didn't love. Afam, on the other hand, respected her space, hoping that she would warm up to him in time. Days turned into weeks, and Nora continued to keep her distance from Afam. She was polite but distant, always finding excuses to avoid intimacy. Whenever Afam tried to get close, she would gently pull away, citing headaches, tiredness, or chores that needed her attention. She would smile, but it never reached her eyes, leaving Afam feeling more like a guest in his own home than a husband. Afam was patient, but he couldn't help feeling frustrated. He loved Nora deeply and had high hopes for their marriage, but her coldness was wearing him down. At first, he tried to understand her, thinking that maybe she just needed time to adjust to their new life together. He would bring her flowers and small gifts, hoping to make her smile. But her reactions were always lukewarm, a soft "thank you" and a quick retreat to another room. As the days passed, Afam's frustration began to seep into his daily life. He would come home from work, hoping for a warm welcome, but instead, he was greeted with Nora's polite indifference. He started to notice things that hadn't bothered him before. The way she avoided his touch, the way she always had a reason to stay busy, the way she seemed to be in her own world even when they were in the same room. It all felt like a constant reminder that something was missing. One evening, after another day of feeling like he was walking on eggshells around his wife, Afam couldn't hold it in any longer. He had tried to be understanding, but his patience was wearing thin. "Nora, we need to talk," he said, his voice tense with unspoken frustration. Nora looked up from the book she was reading, a flicker of worry in her eyes. "Is everything alright?" she asked, though they both knew the answer. Afam took a deep breath, trying to keep his emotions in check. "Nora, I don't understand what's happening between us. I feel like you're always keeping me at arm's length. I know things can be difficult at the beginning, but it feels like you're not even trying. What's going on?" His voice cracked with the weight of his feelings, his eyes searching hers for some kind of answer. Nora looked away, her expression unreadable. "Afam, it's not that simple. There are things I'm dealing with, things I can't explain right now. I need you to trust me and give me some time," she said softly, but Afam could hear the hesitation in her voice. His frustration bubbled over. "Time? How much time, Nora? We've been married for weeks, and I feel like I don't even know you. I'm trying my best here, but it feels like you're pushing me away," he said, his voice rising. He hated the desperation he felt, the sense of helplessness that came with loving someone who seemed so unreachable. Nora's eyes filled with tears, and she turned her face away, unable to meet his gaze. "I'm sorry, Afam. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words, and Afam felt a sudden sense of regret. He loved her, but he couldn't keep fighting alone. He needed her to meet him halfway. As the night went on, Afam lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong, but he didn't know how to fix it. All he wanted was to hold his wife and feel like they were truly together, but that dream felt more distant with each passing day. Then, one evening, Afam confronted her. "Nora, I have been nothing but patient and understanding. But we are married now. We should be acting like a married couple." Nora looked at him, tears filling up in her eyes. I can't, Afam. I can't force myself to do something I don't feel. Surprised, Afam sighed, feeling the weight of his frustration. I paid a heavy bride price for you. Your parents insisted on it. Don't you think you owe it to them to try? His voice was strained, a mix of confusion and desperation. Nora's anger fled like a wildfire. I owe them nothing. They sold me to you like I was a piece of property. I am not an object to be bought and sold. Her eyes flashed with fury, and her voice trembled with the depth of her emotions. She could feel the weight of the expectations placed upon her, and it suffocated her. Afam took a step back, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Nora, that's not what I meant. I'm just trying to understand. We're married now, and I want to make this work. But you're always so distant. His voice softened, hoping to bridge the growing chasm between them. The argument escalated as Nora's anger boiled over. You don't understand. You think this is about money. It's about my freedom, my choice. They never asked me what I wanted. Her voice cracked, and she felt tears stinging her eyes. She hated showing this vulnerability, but she couldn't keep it bottled up any longer. Afam felt a sense of guilt and helplessness. I'm sorry, Nora. I didn't know it was like that. I want us to be happy. I want us to build a life together. His words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity, but they seemed to bounce off the walls she had built around herself. Nora's anger was a storm, and she couldn't hold it back. Happy? How can I be happy when I feel like a prisoner? You don't get to decide my life for me. With that, she stormed out of the house, her footsteps echoing in the silence that followed. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving Afam standing there, feeling helpless and defeated. He watched her retreating figure and felt a deep sense of sorrow. He didn't know how to reach her, how to make her see that he wasn't the enemy. He slumped into a chair, running a hand through his hair in frustration. The walls she had built were high and impenetrable, and he felt powerless to break them down. The night seemed darker than usual, and Afam felt a crushing loneliness settle over him. He wanted to follow her, to hold her and tell her everything would be okay, but he knew she needed space. He stared out into the night, his mind racing with thoughts of what he could do to mend their fractured relationship. As he sat there, he realized that understanding her pain was the first step. He needed to find a way to show her that he truly cared, not because of the bride price, but because he genuinely wanted to build a life with her. Desperate for a solution, Afam sought advice from the village elders. He explained his predicament, hoping they could provide some guidance. Chief Yorochi, the eldest of the elders, listened carefully. Afam, marriage is not just about paying a bride price. It is about mutual respect and understanding. You cannot force Nora to love you or be intimate with you. But what should I do? Afam asked, frustrated. Give her time, Chief Yorochi advised. Show her kindness and patience. Love cannot be rushed. You must earn her trust. After that, Afam nodded, feeling slightly hopeful. He returned home with a renewed determination to win Nora's heart. He decided to shower her with small acts of kindness, hoping to break through her defenses. Nora noticed the change in Afam's behavior. He was more considerate and attentive, but she remained guarded. She appreciated his efforts but was still not ready to let him in. One day, while walking through the village, Nora overheard a group of women gossiping about her. They were mocking her for not fulfilling her duties as a wife, saying she was ungrateful for marrying a wealthy man like Afam. The comments were extremely painful, and Nora felt a wave of shame. She realized that her actions were affecting not just Afam but also her own reputation in the village. People whispered behind her back, and she could feel their judgmental eyes following her everywhere she went. She decided it was time to confront the situation head-on and speak to Afam about her feelings. That evening, after pacing back and forth in her room and rehearsing what she would say, she finally gathered the courage to approach him. Afam, we need to talk, she said, her voice steady but with an undertone of vulnerability. Interested to what she had to say, Afam looked up from the chair where he had been sitting, a brief expression of surprise on his face, quickly replaced by hope. Of course, Nora. What is it? He replied, his tone gentle and inviting. Taking a deep breath, Nora knelt down beside him. I have been unfair to you, she admitted, her eyes meeting his. I know you have been trying your best, and I appreciate it. But I need more time to come to terms with this marriage. Everything happened so fast, and I wasn't given a choice. I feel trapped. Afam nodded, a wave of relief washing over him at her honesty. I understand, Nora. I really do. Take all the time you need. I will be here, waiting for you. His voice was filled with sincerity, and for the first time, Nora saw the man behind the expectations and obligations. A weight seemed to lift off her shoulders as she spoke those words. It was as if a heavy burden she had been carrying for weeks had finally been set down. Thank you, Afam, she said softly, feeling a sense of peace for the first time since their wedding. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension between them slowly dissolving. Nora felt optimistic that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to make this work. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but this conversation was a crucial first step towards closing the gap between them. As they shared a tentative smile, she felt a spark of connection, a tiny flame that could grow into something more if nurtured with patience and understanding. In the following weeks, Afam and Nora started to spend more time together. They went for walks in the village, attended community events, and even started working on small projects around the house. The villagers noticed the change and began to speak more kindly of Nora. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Afam shared stories of his childhood. Nora listened, genuinely interested. For the first time, she saw a different side of him, a side that was caring and gentle. You know, Afam, you're not as bad as I thought, Nora said with a smile. Afam laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. Their bond grew stronger, and Nora started to feel more comfortable around him. She still wasn't ready for intimacy, but she appreciated the effort Afam was putting into their relationship. One night, as they lay in bed, the room was filled with a quiet tension. The only sound was the faint rustling of the curtains in the night breeze. Nora, feeling a mix of gratitude and guilt, took Afam's hand in hers. Thank you for being patient with me, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Afam squeezed her hand gently, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I'll wait as long as it takes, Nora, he replied, his voice full of sincerity and warmth. He moved a little closer, hoping to bridge the gap that still lay between them. Nora could feel his warmth next to her and the steady rhythm of his breathing. She wanted to feel something more, to let go of the fear and anger that had been holding her back. But as Afam leaned in to kiss her, she stiffened, the old fears rising to the surface. She pulled back slightly, a barrier of anxiety and unresolved emotions rising between them once more. Afam's face fell for a moment, disappointment clear in his eyes, but he quickly masked it with a gentle smile. It's okay, Nora, he said, trying to hide his frustration. We don't have to rush anything. We'll take it one step at a time. Nora felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. I'm sorry, Afam, she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. I want to, I really do. But I'm just not ready yet. Afam nodded, his heart aching but understanding her struggle. He wrapped his arm around her, pulling her into a comforting embrace. I understand, Nora. We'll get through this together, he assured her, trying to offer her the reassurance she needed. As they lay there, holding each other, Nora felt a mix of relief and sadness. She knew Afam was trying his best, and she was determined to walk through her fears, but it would take time. Wishing that as time went on, their relationship would get stronger. Despite the progress they were making, Nora still felt a lingering resentment towards her parents. She decided it was time to confront them and express her feelings. One afternoon, she visited her parents' home. Her mother, Binnie, greeted her warmly. "Nora, it's good to see you." Nora took a deep breath. "I need to talk to both of you." Her parents sat down, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What is it, my dear?" her father, Orenze, asked. "I need you to understand how much you've hurt me by forcing me into this marriage," Nora said, tears streaming down her face. "You treated me like an object, valuing money over my happiness." Her parents looked shocked. "We thought we were doing what was best for you," Binnie said softly. Nora shook her head. "You didn't consider my feelings. You only saw Afam's wealth. But I'm starting to see that Afam is not the problem. It's the way you went about it." Orenze sighed. "We are sorry, Nora. We never meant to hurt you. We just wanted to secure your future." Nora nodded, feeling a sense of closure. "I hope you understand now that love and respect are more important than money." With the confrontation behind her, Nora felt a sense of relief. She was ready to focus on building a stronger relationship with Afam. They kept interacting together and learned to understand each other better. One evening, Afam surprised Nora with a small gift, a beautiful necklace. "I saw this and thought of you," he said, placing it around her neck. Nora smiled, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Afam. It's beautiful." As they sat by the fire, Afam looked into her eyes. "Nora, I want you to know that I truly care about you. I want this marriage to work, not because of the bride price, but because I see a future with you." Nora felt her heart soften. "I care about you too, Afam. I'm sorry it took me so long to see that." One evening, under the soft glow of the lantern light, Nora and Afam sat together in their small, cozy bedroom. The air was thick with unspoken words, but there was a newfound warmth between them. They had spent the past few weeks talking more, sharing stories, and slowly building a bridge of understanding. Nora looked into Afam's eyes, seeing the kindness and patience that had been a constant in their marriage. "Afam," she began hesitantly, "I want to talk to you about something important." Afam turned to her, his expression gentle and encouraging. "Of course, Nora. What's on your mind?" Taking a deep breath, Nora continued, "I know I've been distant, and I'm sorry for that. It wasn't fair to you. But your patience and understanding have meant so much to me. I think I'm ready to take the next step." Afam's heart skipped a beat. He reached out and took her hand, his touch tender and reassuring. "Nora, you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. We'll go at your pace." Nora nodded, feeling a sense of security in his words. "I know. But I want to try. I want to be closer to you." She moved closer, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Afam leaned in, his eyes searching hers for any sign of hesitation. Seeing none, he gently kissed her, his lips soft and warm against hers. Nora felt a spark of connection that she hadn't allowed herself to feel before. She wrapped her arms around him, pulling him closer, and they shared a tender, intimate moment. As they lay together, the barriers that had kept them apart began to dissolve. Their kisses grew deeper, their touches more assured. Nora felt a sense of hope and trust blossoming within her. She knew it would take time, but for the first time since their marriage, she believed they could build something beautiful together. That night, they made love with a gentle passion that spoke of new beginnings and a shared journey. Nora felt safe and cherished in Afam's arms, and as they drifted off to sleep, she knew they had taken a significant step forward. Their bond had grown stronger, and with it, a sense of hope for a brighter future. As their relationship improved, Afam and Nora faced new challenges together. After making fun of her in the past, the villagers now appreciated Nora for how she was now behaving. They also admired Afam for his patience and kindness. One day, Afam received news that his business was facing financial difficulties. He was worried about how they would manage, but Nora stood by his side. "We'll get through this together," she said, holding his hand. "We can overcome anything as long as we have each other." A newfound sense of confidence came over Afam. With Nora's support, he worked hard to turn things around. Nora also contributed by starting a small business of her own, selling handmade crafts in the village market. Their teamwork paid off, and Afam's business slowly recovered. The experience brought them even closer, strengthening their relationship. As time went on, Nora and Afam's bond grew into a sincere and profound love. They had overcome many obstacles, learning valuable lessons along the way. They realized that true happiness came from mutual respect, understanding, and support. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Afam took Nora's hand. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Nora smiled. "Yes, we have. And I've learned that love cannot be forced or bought. It must be earned and nurtured." Afam nodded. "You've taught me the true meaning of love, Nora. I'm grateful for every moment we've shared." Nora leaned in and kissed him softly. "And I'm grateful for your patience and kindness." Their story is an inspiration, showing that love and respect is more important than wealth and status. Nora and Afam's journey taught everyone that true love could only flourish when both partners were willing to work together and support each other. In the end, Nora and Afam found happiness not in material wealth, but in the love and trust they had built. Their story reminded everyone that the most valuable things in life could not be bought, but had to be earned through patience, understanding, and mutual respect. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to get more captivating stories on my African Tales channel.